niggas is lost, man. All of y'all is lost.
I'm like Joker.
I gotta tell you another thing that Cardi said to me on the phone, nigga. This nigga told me he was at the chateau with a gun,
You
nigga.
are talking to the richest black person.
What that mean, nigga?
He said he didn't want to be funny.
Are you
stupid? Cause I like being funny.
Like, Cardi album was trash, bro.
My role models are artists, merchants. Less than 10 that I can name in history. Truman, Ford, Hughes, Disney, Jobs, West.
From revolutionizing hip-hop
I'm the god of me.
to becoming one of the most polarizing figures in entertainment,
Why would any of that?
Bro, I ain't finished.
Kanye has walked a fine line between creative brilliance and self-destruction.
I'm God.
Some call him a visionary.
You cannot give me any advice.
Others see him as a cautionary tale. But how did he get here? And is there a way back? Before the fame, before the headlines, Kanye Omari West was just a kid from Chicago with a dream too big for his city to contain. Raised by his mother, Donda West, a professor who believed in his genius before the world did, Kanye's ambition was clear from the start. While other kids asked for video games, Kanye wanted music equipment. He started producing beats as a teenager, selling them to local artists. And at the age of 19, Kanye West received his first production credits when he produced 8 tracks on Down to Earth, the 1996 debut album of Chicago-based underground rapper Grav. But knowing Kanye, being behind the scenes wasn't going to be enough. Determined to prove himself, Kanye moved to New York, pushing his beats onto every major artist he could find, and walking into every major label office possible, just for them to later deem him unworthy of a shot. But this wasn't going to stop Kanye. In the 2000s, West's breakthrough came after he produced a track for Beanie Siegel, who was signed to Jay-Z's label Rockefeller Records, titled The Truth. Damon Dash, the co-founder of Rockefeller, was impressed with West's beat-making skills. Dash recruited West to produce This Can't Be Life for Jay-Z's 2000 album, The Dynasty, Rock La Familia. But Kanye wasn't done yet. Exactly 1 year later, he would once again produce for Jay-Z, and this time, he would go to help construct the most iconic album of all time, The Blueprint. Kanye delivered a collection of samples that provided the album with a clear soul influence, using songs from the Jackson 5, R&B group Bobby Blue Band, and soul artist David Ruffin. The album debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200, sold 427,000 copies in its first week, certified 2 times platinum, and over 2 million copies sold in the US, considered one of the greatest rap albums of all time. Tracks like Takeover, Izzo, Hova, and Song Cry became classics which boosted Rockefeller Records and Jay-Z's influence in hip-hop. And even without sweeping the Grammys, The Blueprint remains one of the most influential rap albums ever and marked a turning point in Jay-Z's career. All thanks to one man who took it upon himself, challenged what was considered abnormal, and made it possible. But even after all of the success, no one wanted Kanye the rapper. Labels saw him as a producer, nothing more. And when it came to working on his album, the College Dropout labels wanted control on his creativity. His ideas didn't matter. Tossed out, laughed at, and even called him crazy. So Kanye did what Kanye does best. He bet on himself. He funded his own album, recording The College Dropout in his own way, his own creativity. Then, in a moment that could have ended everything, on his way home, Ye got into a near-fatal car accident. As bad as it was, turned out to be a blessing in disguise. On October 23, 2002, West was in a California recording studio producing music for Beanie Siegel, Petey Crack, and the Black Eyed Peas. After leaving the studio at around 3 a.m. in his rented Lexus, Ye had fallen asleep at the wheel and led him on a head-on collision. The metals twisted, the glass shattered. His face slammed into the steering wheel, breaking his jaw in 3 places. When he woke up, he could barely move. His mouth was wired shut. Doctors told him he'd need reconstructive surgery. Talking would be difficult. Rapping? Nearly impossible. Lying in that hospital bed, Kanye had a choice. He could take the easy way out, rest till he's fully recover and go back to making beats for other people. Or Kanye could just be Kanye. With his jaw still wired shut, Kanye walked into that studio, and with every breath and every word to every verse constructed a masterpiece. Until this day, it can still be heard, even through the wire. If Kanye had never been in that accident, maybe he still would have made it. Maybe he still would have been a star. But that crash forced him to prove something, not just to the world, but to himself. Because pain doesn't break you, it reveals you. And in Kanye's case, it revealed a man who would stop at nothing. His journey from a near-death experience to becoming one of the most influential artists of all time is proof that sometimes the worst moments in life aren't the end of the story. They're just the beginning. Kanye West, a name that once symbolized musical genius, innovation, and cultural dominance.
I'm the king,
But today,
I'm the only one against
it's a
you.
name entangled in controversy, destruction, and irreversible consequences. Once hailed as one of the most influential artists of all time, Kanye's empire spanned music, fashion, and business. But in the end, it was his own words that turned the world against him. How did a man who reshaped hip-hop, built a billion-dollar brand, to now on the verge of losing everything? And more importantly, his identity. They say success comes at a cost. But unfortunately for Kanye, that cost was himself. Because with great power comes great responsibility. What happens when two worlds collide, when two minds are altered, but one body? What happens when someone who's known by many, praised as a creative genius, who redefined an industry suddenly spirals into controversy? This is what happens when brilliance crosses the line into chaos. It started in 2016 when Kanye West, riding high on his meteoric rise, faced a personal crisis that only a few saw coming. A very public mental health episode landed him in the hospital and brought his bipolar disorder into the spotlight. Concerns emerged that this was only the first crack in an increasingly fragile persona. In the early days, there were always subtle hints that something wasn't quite right. A promising career, punctuated by breakthrough moments, was already shadowed by internal battles. A high-profile mental health crisis not only shook his fans, but also foreshadowed deeper personal struggles. Yet, even as whispers of vulnerability began to surface, the world remained captivated by his artistic brilliance. But that was only the beginning. Soon, Kanye began using his public image to challenge expectations. His all-black ensembles and outlandish fashion choices weren't merely about style. They hinted at an evolving, defiant persona. In 2018, he raised eyebrows by donning a controversial Trump hat and making statements that left fans, critics, and even casual observers reeling. Each bold choice was a spark that ignited further controversy, setting him on a collision course with public opinion. And in 2020, the unpredictability only intensified when Kanye took an unexpected plunge into politics by launching a presidential campaign. With a series of raw, emotionally charged moments on stage, he stunned audiences who had never seen this side of him before, but left many questioning his true intentions. The following year, the collision of Kanye West's personal challenges and relentless media scrutiny became impossible to ignore. His very public relationship breakdown and the ensuing barrage on social media revealed vulnerabilities that blurred the line between performance and pain. As private struggles spilled into the public domain, each revelation deepened the narrative of a once great artist teetering on the edge. And as the chaos escalated, every new altercation seemed to push him further over the edge. Between 2022 and 2023, the saga continued. Kanye West made inflammatory remarks and forged alliances with extreme figures, actions that rapidly alienated his fan base and severed ties with major brands. Corporate giants distanced themselves almost overnight, such as multi-figure brand deal with Adidas vanished, and each new scandal chipped away at the empire he had built, and the consequences were both immediate and devastating, marking a period where every misstep compounded his downfall. And finally, here we are, 2025. Kanye's story serves as a reminder, a portrait of both genius and tragedy, with each controversial action building upon the last. Some say his mother's death created an abyss in his soul that many believe was never filled, causing a once steady vision of creativity to fracture. In his search for meaning, it seems he's lost not only his way, but also the part of himself that once grounded him. Yet in life, even the most shattered pieces can sometimes find their place again. Perhaps, as the saying goes, the darkest moments produce the brightest stars, and this time, we can only hope that Kanye will find that star again.
every time I crash the internet, it's like this little drop of truth. Every time I say something that's extremely truthful out loud, it literally breaks the internet. I don't care about having a legacy. I don't care about being remembered.
Kanye West, a name that sparks debate, divides opinions, and leaves the world wondering, who is he really? Is he the visionary who changed hip-hop forever? Or the man who seems to be at war with himself?
I don't give a fuck, nigga.
So today, we explore the two sides of Ye versus Kanye, and the journey that took him from the icon we once knew, a man of faith, to a man who no longer believes. This is the two sides of Ye and Kanye West. Kanye West, Ye. Two names, one man. But are they the same? Or are they two forces locked in an eternal battle? Genius versus chaos, vision versus madness.
I'm the God of me, and you can't tell me who I am.
Kanye West is the icon, the visionary, the man who redefined music, fashion, and culture. He's the voice that shook the world. He's the flash, the spectacle, the larger-than-life persona that commands attention. When Kanye speaks, the world listens. When Kanye creates, the world stops. But then, there's Ye, unfiltered, unhinged, unpredictable. Ye is the man behind the mask.
Every human being has something of value that they brought to the table, especially Hitler.
The chaos behind the genius.
You ain't got the answer, Sway.
He's the one who says the unsayable, who challenges the status quo, who doesn't care if the world calls him crazy. Ye is the storm, the whirlwind, the ego that dared to say, I am a god.
I'm God.
The voice that refuses to be silenced even when it costs him everything.
Can't do enough for nobody out here.
Kanye is the fire, the unstoppable force, the man who declared himself the greatest artist of all time and then set out to prove it. He's the one who turned pain into power, heartbreak into hits, and doubt into diamonds. Kanye doesn't just break the rules, he rewrites them. But Ye is the explosion, the man who doesn't hold back.
Hey, good morning, Kanye.
Who doesn't filter his thoughts, who doesn't care if the world misunderstands him. Ye is the one who reminds us that genius often walks hand in hand with madness. He's the artist who bears his soul, even when it's raw, even when it's messy, even when it's terrifying. Kanye is unapologetic, bold, sometimes reckless. He's the man who doesn't care what you think, who says what's on his mind no matter the cost. Love him or hate him, you can't ignore him. But Ye is the man who carries the weight of his own mind, the one who battles his demons in public, who struggles with his sanity, who seeks redemption in the chaos. Ye is the artist who reminds us that brilliance often comes at a price. Two sides of the same coin, two forces in the same mind. One is the genius, the other is the chaos. One is the vision, the other is the madness. Together they create the enigma that is Kanye West, a man who is constantly evolving, constantly searching, constantly creating, even when it feels like the world is against him. So, as you can see, Ye and Kanye are not far from each other. They can be one and the same, or both, where Ye takes on the personality of Kanye, and Kanye takes on the personality of Ye. Maybe the answer isn't one or the other. Maybe it's both. Maybe it's the tension between the two that makes him who he is, a genius, a rebel, a man forever caught between the light and the dark. And if you were to ask me the exact reason behind all of his antics, all I can say is,
I guess we'll never know.